Hello, good afternoon and good morning in Calgary. This is Syed Arshid from Kashmir Link from Calgary, Canada. I have a very special guest today in my program. And before I go to my guest, Claire Bidwell from Scotland, I have a few words to my listener in Urdu or other than English. कश्मीर लिंक का ये प्रोग्राम जैसा कि मैं रिपीटेडली ये रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ कि डेडिकेटेड फॉर कश्मीर पीपल ऑफ इंडियन ऑक्युपाइड कश्मीर जो कि लिटरली अंडर सीज हैं, तो आप दुनिया के जिस मुल्क में भी रह रहे हैं, जिस सियासी जमात या इलाके से आपका ताल्लुक है, प्लीज़ रिमेंबर our brothers and sisters in Indian occupied Kashmir. And on behalf of this forum, Kashmir Link, we assure our brothers and sisters living in Indian occupied Kashmir that we will always remember you. We will always there for your any suffering, whatever is going on with you from India, we will raise our voices. Hello, Claire. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Hello. Thank you for inviting me along.
You're welcome. This was a glimpse of paradise on the earth, Kashmir. And I'm glad that you were there in Kashmir and in Pakistan. First of all, thank you very much for visiting little part of Kashmir and in Pakistan. So how was your visit there?
Oh, it was fantastic. I loved it from beginning to end. I mean, the people, the culture, the city itself, it's incredibly friendly. The pace of life is great. And I mean, I felt like I was treated like a princess. I was treated a little bit like a rock star. People couldn't do enough for me. But at the same time, respectful, welcoming, but not, when we had discussions, people felt relaxed to share their ideas and suggestions. So essentially, when I was going, it was as a tourist, and I got in touch with some people that I knew to say, can we meet for tea? And then each of those occasions, they kind of grew bigger than was anticipated. So from one small cup of tea with one person at their house, it grew to either a media a press release, a conference, and we had a meal up at the Houses of Parliament, whatever you call it, over there. And so everything grew in its welcome, if you like, and every place that we went to, everybody put on tea and then brought other people to join, and there was lots of discussion. And my hosts were amazing, really. They couldn't do enough. And the country itself, it was a lovely time to go. The weather was great. So that was, Islamabad, where I went first, and then Kashmir was just stunning. You could see the difference in a way as you cross the border, and you're almost like in another world. And I was always curious to see, because it had sounded similar to Scotland. And there are similarities, but there are also big differences. Like the hills there go up a lot steeper, a lot quicker. We're a lot more kind of rolling, and they're not so high. And then the houses up the sides of the hills and the mountains, we don't tend to have that. So that was incredible. Yeah, no, it was a really, really good experience. One I'll treasure for always.
Very glad to hear that. The viewers, this is Claire Bidwell, who is also the co-founder of Let Kashmir Decide. And I think that this is the best thing, that somebody who has no bias from either to Pakistan or to India or to one side of Kashmir or to other side of Kashmir has to visit that part of the world to know that what is actually happening there. So first of all, it was very good that you visited one part of Kashmir. Do you have any plan to visit other part of Kashmir, the ground zero where all the bad things are happening as we speak today in 21st century? You know better than anybody else that Indian occupied Kashmir is literally under siege, under curfew. Women are systematically raped. Children are under pellet guns and cluster bomb, and so many people under arrest. So, is there any hope or possibility that one day you can visit that part of Kashmir?
I honestly don't know the answer to that. I would really love to. And I guess the way to explore that would perhaps be through the Indian embassy before I attempted it. You know, sadly, my YouTube channel is blocked in India. I only
There you
have
go.
280 followers, and it's just my campaign work. You know, and I've tried to say before, I'm not against the Indian people. I'm not against India as a country. It's the actions, it's the behaviors that I'd want to see. So I campaign, I feel, you know, fairly neutral. It's on what I see. It's democratic. It's a freedom of voice. But sadly, that has been limited. My Facebook page is also blocked in India and in Kashmir. So there's obviously the perceived threat. And from some of the feedback I get from some of the people, they feel that I'm putting down their country. I'm speaking badly against their country rather than some of these actions. So I suspect I wouldn't be allowed, but doesn't mean I won't try and explore it and see. And you know, one day, hopefully in the future, perhaps if things are different, or if they allow envoys in or people in, maybe I would be able to go. I don't know.
Very nicely said. You know, you are from Scotland, UK, and I'm from Kashmir. But honestly, I don't have any bias or anything bad against India. As long as Indian government and Indian people, if they can realize and they can feel that in 21st century, all we are asking is our basic right to self-determination, the very right that was given by United Nations Security Council, accepted, recognized by both India and Pakistan. This is all we are asking as Kashmiri, and you are pleading for us for the right of Kashmir. If Kashmiris are given that right, tomorrow, if they decide to go with India, it is fine with Kashmiris. I think it should be fine
I think I'm having
You
some
hear me?
problem with having some problems with the connection. I just
Okay.
lost you there.
Okay.
I can
So
hear you now, I think.
yeah, so that's what I was saying, that you know, the neutral viewers, whether they are from Pakistan, from Kashmir, from UK, from any part of the world, all we are asking is our right to self-determination.
Yeah, and I think for me, obviously, the human rights is what brought me into this, and the concern on that, and therefore the solution is the right for self-determination. Because I mean, I think that's what we're currently seeing. I'm finding it quite difficult currently to get the news out of Kashmir, what's happening, because they've been silenced on all levels. Everybody's been silenced. People using Facebook, have been brought into for questioning and jailed. We've got the Kashmiri journalists all being silenced. But what we are seeing is more troops going in and more cordon and search operations. And then they're claiming that it's terrorist activity, and that's what they're trying to stop. So it's this narrative, the telling of the narratives that they're giving. And then, but even by their reckoning on that, then self-determination would solve everything. And we can see India aren't wanting to engage in dialogue with anybody. They're not wanting to talk about it. They're just going through it with like hammer and sledges. And I think regardless of people's ideologies, we don't get to have a say at the minute who we want to go with, what we want to do, because it's just not happening. So this is where I feel that people need to unite together, regardless of their ideologies, so that at least we get the opportunity for the human rights and the future of Kashmir to be resolved.
Very true. And unity, this is what exactly what we need as a Kashmiri, and as a sympathy with the Kashmiri people, whether they are from any part of the world, that if we can unite on one point, and that is very simple and basic point, that give us override. This is 21st century. If the world can talk to Taliban, world can talk to better than anybody else that what was happening in Ireland and in any other part of the world. So why not Kashmir?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And then that's what it seems so such a sensible, logic, democratic solution decision. All the other world countries, as we know and we've discussed, they tend to say it's somebody else's problem. India's problem, Pakistan's problem, not respecting the fact that in all this, Kashmiri has no voice. We're looking at the state of the leaders, the political prisoners is disgusting. And it just looks as though the rest of the world are keeping the status quo because it suits them. It's economic values, human rights are just not at the forefront. And it's very challenging because it means we're not just dealing with India and Pakistan, but we're dealing with the whole international community. There's a lot of onus on Pakistan, I feel. Everybody's looking at them because they are the ones allowing more freedom of voice and less restrictions of movements, and not the brutalities that we're seeing in India and occupied Kashmir. So they're also coming in for a hard time for not doing enough. But then when we look around at the international community, well, who's allowing anybody to do anything? So I'm getting more and more despaired with the UK government and America, because they're sitting there a lot of countries are sitting allowing what India are currently doing, and they're allowing that to go on and then blaming other people. But there's more of us at fault here, I think. And then we look to the people, and then obviously there's people like you and I that we're standing up, and there are thousands of others, millions of others, be it Kashmiris or not. But a lot of the good people that are out there that do care, I think, are just kind of getting on with their lives. We need more people to stand up and step up and put the pressure on our governments, and on the United Nations, and make it clear that, we don't want to sit here on what, I don't know. Sometimes it just seems so senseless, and I don't understand it. And that we're having to do so much to ask for something as simple as democracy and respect and, a good life. It can be very frustrating, banging a head on a brick wall, isn't it, sometimes? And then we've got people right at the heart of this suffering, which is what it's all about.
Yeah. You mentioned Pakistan. You were there, and I know that Pakistan has its own problems and limitations. But as a neutral observer, what did you find that if world community come to one point of for a right to self-determination for Kashmiris, because we hear from Prime Minister of Pakistan repeatedly saying that whatever the decision of Kashmiris, we will accept that. Pakistan government and state of Pakistan will accept that. So, what was your realization, or what you think that is it the stand, or if India comes to at one point accept that the right of self-determination for Kashmiris, so in Pakistan will accept that, so India should accept, and international community should put a pressure on India to accept that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question. I think one of the difficulties I mean, nobody can ever know, you know, with our own countries, with political corridors, we can never say 100% what's going on. We can never know. We can only voice what we see. I think for me as a campaigner, I have to go and work for the strengths. So my sole goal really is for the people. It's the people of Indian occupied Kashmir that brought me into this, but then obviously the bridge out for all Kashmiris. But I go where the strengths are. I go where the positives are. There's no point wasting energy and time with things that aren't working for us. So if Imran Khan has said, at the end of the day, he will give Kashmiris, if that's the route it took, that it was the bilateral vote, and then at the end of the day, he was giving Kashmiris the vote, then there has to be an element of acceptance of that. He said it publicly. He said it out. You know, so why... sorry, I've got something come up in front of my screen and it won't go away. Can you still see me?
Yeah, I can see you. I can hear you good.
Sorry. You know, it's like, why disbelieve? That is there. So there's no reason to not, you know, believe that. Okay, we could look at different issues within the country where others are pointing out, you know, how much freedom of voice, etc. do they have. But then we start getting into the politics of another country. And I don't talk about the politics that are going on in Scotland and England and that level. So some of those aren't for me. I think one of the difficulties that came up was the fact that I do campaign for Kashmir. And I was out there, although I was out there as a tourist, and there was one small event that we were going to have, you know, for the Kashmir, for the global mandate. It flagged up really that Kashmir is a disputed territory and Kashmir is of a concern, and my safety could be at risk, was what they were indicating, because perhaps Indian agents operate within the area. So sadly, it was like I had one day, you know, Pakistan, that was great. The culture, I felt safe, I felt relaxed, I was well looked after. Kashmir, the first day. So I essentially had one day, I would say, as a kind of free tourist, and it was brilliant. You know, again, I was well looked after. We actually went to the house of a lady that used to, was from the UK, that used to own it. I think they've now turned it into a wedding hall or something like that. But
Was it in Kotley? Was it in Kotley?
This was in Cotley, yeah. So we went to Cotley, and then we were going to have our event in the tea place the next day, just meeting people for tea. So that was fine. And then, you know, sadly, they flagged up that I was there and we were going to have this event. And what they wanted to do, the security services, was offer us security at the risk of, I'm not meant to be near any political demonstrations as a visitor to another country. And there was one going on by the Chowk near the tea place. So that kind of flagged up that I was going to be a little bit nit there. The fact that Kashmir, and it was the disputed territory. So it was advised either that it didn't go on or it did go on and we would have security, which would mean people following us, I believe, with the guns and things. So it wasn't something that my host felt comfortable with or people felt comfortable with. So that, you know, that was then difficult. Had I not been working, had I not been a Kashmiri campaigner or activist, I don't think there would have been any problem, any issue. It was merely that topic and that. So therefore, I can't answer how I would. But what I can see is obviously, you know, they're looking out for me then in that country, and I was allowed into that country. I didn't have to leave that country straight away. I think it's pretty clear that if I'm not too much bother and I'm allowed back, that I will need security to move around with and would need to probably go under an NGO and everything. So maybe it was a little bit naive to visit as a tourist and think I could keep it that way. Because I'm pretty sure if somebody came into Northern Ireland during the Troubles and
Yeah.
wanted to have some kind of event, they're going to meet the same thing, the same in Scotland. So obviously there was a lot of people thinking that it was curtailing my freedom. And so that was the dynamics. And you're like, okay, well, maybe it's curtailing my freedom, but then it is in a country. We're 15 miles from the border with India. You know, I could see the hill where bombs and things will drop from the border, and they don't know who's in their society, so, and who's there. So that was the way it played. But there was certainly, you know, there was no, you've got to leave our country and you've got to leave our country now. I feel that I was looked after, I was respected, and then we just made the choice within that it was going to be difficult to just, well, we were unable to just walk freely on the ground to meet people normally, go to places normally because of the concern that it threw up. So we made that choice then to just head back to Islamabad so that there wasn't that difficulty. Yeah, but yes, so I mean, probably wouldn't have even been allowed into India. So on that score, and then of course, once you're back in Islamabad, there's, you know, even more freedom, as it were. But
you see, this is the sad part, that sometimes you are just on a stone throwing distance from one side of Kashmir to another side, and there are so many families divided that maybe in some instance, there are sister is on one side of Kashmir, Pakistan side, and the other brother is on the other side of Kashmir, and they have like uh, Eid parties or Christmas or wedding parties. They can just look from other side of Kashmir, whether it is a river or a small, border,
yeah, I
but
mean,
they
it's,
cannot cross
yeah,
that
no.
point. And I think, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And then, you know, when we look then at the line of control as you know, as its own issue, I mean, that's another area that could be looked at for removing that. But it's just that concern, and I don't know enough of the politics. You know, is there enough? I don't know if India are talking. You know, it's a bit like, I sometimes see like the Berlin Wall. Can we not take the line of control down? You're not meant to be shooting at one another anyway. It's meant to be the ceasefire. And you'll see sometimes these photographs of the soldiers exchanging Eid gifts or, you know, Hindu festival gifts. And there's
Yeah,
this image put out there that on the line, you know, they're friends, and it's very complex, and it's very, and I know, I guess, you know, what we say, the West are selling these weapons to India and Pakistan that are then being fired off at the border. So there's the bigger issues of it affecting the West economy. I mean, how much money would India and Pakistan both have to put into their own countries if they weren't spending all this money at the border? So there's that issue in itself is really sad. And I like to think it is sometimes like the Berlin Wall or something. Is there some way to find, even in all this, that can come down, you know, allow people to move freely? But yeah, it's difficult as a campaigner. I've just got to keep my focus on on what's my business, what I can manage, what I do know, what I can control. And it's just simply trying to bring to attention all these things that are happening, so people with the know-how and knowledge to perhaps know
yeah,
how we can work on different issues can take that forward. You know, I'm lucky, I've got so many knowledgeable people around me within the Kashmiri community that have held this alive for 60, 70 years, you know, and they know everything. You know, some of them are like walking encyclopedias. And then other campaigners, I've got, you know, a knowledgeable in peace resolution and conflict and international business things. They all know far more than me. So, you know, even people like yourselves, I'm so blessed to know, because it means I don't need to know everything. I'm allowed to feel in my gut what feels right, what isn't right as human beings, and then reach out to people, and, you know, so that we can raise it. But at the same time, we're always saying, right, what can we do next? What is something that we can, you know, keeping it solution focused. You know, we can't change the past. We can't change what happened in 1947, 1950, 1955,
true.
same as we can't with the World War. So we so much have to look at the evidence that is there in front of us right now and what we can use. And I know, from the outside, even at the beginning, being completely naive and knowing nothing, India have never spoken on a stage about the people suffering in Indian occupied Kashmir. They speak about terrorists and maybe that's it. But obviously, when I first came into this, Imran Khan was on the stage at United Nations talking about UK people. If it was 8 million dogs and animals that had been locked up, they would be up in arms about it, and he's right. But at the time, that gave me courage and hope that somebody somewhere in the world was speaking up for this. And because that's what I couldn't make sense. Why has this been kept hidden for so long? Why is this hidden now? That in itself, it's just such an injustice, and it doesn't sit right with me. It's never sat right with me. And yeah, so it's just, and I think going to Kashmir, I needed to feel for myself at the place I was talking about, the people I'd been meeting, what on ground realities were like. Obviously, I think, any tourist that's not involved in the Kashmir issue, I would recommend go there, have a holiday. It was amazing. The people are great. The motorbikes are bonkers. How many people can you get on a bike? How many, what's the youngest baby you can get on a bike? But the freedom of it, and it's like going back in life almost 20, 30 years. And there was something really, nice about that. So I think I would really recommend tourists to go over and visit. They would have no problem at all. I would just need to go and I would love to go in the more formal role, because then I think I could get security to visit people impacted by what's happened at the line of control and all the families that are separated.
Yeah, clear. And I think that I hope and I wish and I pray that people understand that there are two sides of this Kashmiri saga. One, that we are illegally occupied by India and all the sufferings. But the other thing is, and that is also the more important, as you visited there and you observe that how difficult it is for ordinary people to make ends meet. There is poverty everywhere. 200 over 200 million people in Pakistan, and almost 1.5 billion worse than the Pakistan side, the way they are living in India. But on the other hand, they spend billions and billions of dollars to build the nuclear arms and deploy 1 million army in Indian occupied Kashmir, just in a tiny part of Kashmir, 1 million personnel occupying that part of Kashmir. So if they just come to a realization that what we are doing to our own people, and to settle this issue, and then spend all those billions of dollars to betterment of their own people, almost 1.75 billion people living in India and Pakistan. So that is another thing that world should realize. India, that he is not doing by killing Kashmiris, or but by illegally occupying Kashmir, is not doing any favor to his own people.
No, absolutely. And I mean, we've seen with India over the last couple of years, and particularly with COVID, their economy's going down, the record of deaths and everything. It's their worst record they've had for a long time. And I mean, it pains me to say it, but it seems to be. And what I'm seeing is they seem to have this dislike for Muslims much more than they care about helping their own country. And that is the difficulty. So and that's from experience. That's from having dialogues with people. Their mind is set. There's many of them. They're just not open-minded. They're not. And if we're seeing that on the level on psychological level, at the human level, then how's that impacting when you're in power? It's very disheartening. When you look around the world today and the state of different oppressed countries and what's happening, and it can be quite depressing if you let it, because it seems to be getting worse at the moment and not better. And you've just got to keep hoping that tackling on. I mean, one of my desires in all of this, and has been since the beginning, is to get the United Nations functioning. You know, they're not functioning as they should be. They've got amazing human rights articles and charters. They've got these resolutions. They talk around them. They use them as a guide, but they're not implementing them. And I think that's where we need the people of the world to be kind of standing up and saying, hang on a minute, we want these implemented, and they need to be implemented. So I've always felt if we could solve the Kashmir issue over the self-determination, by getting the mechanics working, then we could see solutions in other areas. I know Mary Scully that I work with in America,
Yeah.
and Lee Rhiannon in Australia, you know, they have this thing, you know, this belief where we get people, so we've got the Kashmir people, but we make links and we build a bigger movement. So with the Black Lives Matter people, the Palestinian people, the climate control people, where it all links. We're all people that are wanting justice and fairness and grow it. So to that extent, we've produced a Let Kashmir Decide global mandate, which we're looking with. We've kind of did the soft launch. I was in Cotley 4 because I wanted to launch it from Kashmir itself. And then we're gathering now 6 months of trying to gather people to support it and stand behind it. And it's solely humanitarian. It's not political. And the first thing it looks at is demilitarizing the area and decolonizing the area and looking for justice for, over the last years, you know, the women that have been raped and have never had the justice for that, looking at Kunan Pushpura and other examples, the children with blinding with pellet guns, getting a humanitarian aid group in there. So that's something we're hoping that we can unite people around, you know, and just bring the people power, really, which I think what is lacking. We still feel that we're at the raising awareness stage. And given that the stories that were coming out of Kashmir, Indian occupied Kashmir, that aren't now, it's really hard. But I think you make a good point. A lot of ordinary people in the world don't realize there are two sides of the Kashmir. And I know as a campaigner, you know, it's easy to forget. I know much more now, obviously, than I did when I came in, but there is a lot to learn. So I have to try and remember that, because ordinary people just being told there's an issue, and if they've never heard of the name Kashmir before, there's quite a lot of them to then grasp before they goes along further. It's a problem. And the hardest thing, or one of the hardest things for me watching, is obviously the slogan, Let Kashmir Decide, self-determination. The dream for self-determination is we've maybe only got another 2 or 3 years on that, because the way Modi's going through India right now, you know, his idea is to displace the population, Muslims with Hindus, so that when it does come to a plebiscite, they're going to get the vote and they're going to choose to go with India. So Let Kashmir Decide, you know, that slogan would have to change in 2 or 3 years' time, because if Modi gets his way, then he's changed the voting base, unless, you know, there's some way they would go back in time. So we need to lose quickly. And there is, you know, there's a genocide, a slow genocide going on in there. And, you know, we keep saying we talk about it, but I think one of the good things about talking about it is always that solution focus, right? Well, where are we going next? What do we need to do next with this? And it's making sure people know, I think. And I just, at the moment for me, it's growing the unity, growing the support.
Claire, right now there are lots of people listening to you from Indian occupied Kashmir to over Azad Kashmir. You are co-founder of Let Kashmir Decide, and I hope that people understand that what does it mean, Let Kashmir Decide. This is the demand that you as a volunteer and other people that are working with you are asking the international community, relevant countries, that let Kashmir decide. So Kashmiri people should have the right to decide about their destiny. So as a co-founder of this movement, what is your message to, first of all, to Kashmiris listening from both sides of Kashmir?
Oh, so it's really difficult to speak for the other people on the inside when I really don't know.
I will translate it, whatever you will say.
Oh, okay. I mean, for me, obviously, and for our group, the self-determination, and we're based on a petition to the United Nations, and listing things through, it looks for the option of the three-way vote, so the independence, Pakistan or India, to go with all of those. That's what we're aiming for. We want to bring the Kashmiris' voice out. We don't want to speak for the Kashmiris, and we're recognizing, obviously, it's really difficult for the Indian occupied Kashmir people to get their voices out and to be heard. So there's a lot of level of presumptions in terms of, well, we're there, we know what's happening, we're standing in solidarity with you. The 5th of every month, we're having our tea events, trying to make the world aware of the oppression and the human rights abuses that are happening, and to raise that awareness for the self-determination. The people in Pakistan, Kashmir, I believe, are, even within their politics, are organizing themselves, gathering themselves, wanting to be together to bring voice and speaking up for Indian occupied Kashmir people as well. It's really difficult for me. Like, it changes with each month that I go, but I don't know what the answers are on the inside, because I'm not in either country to, whatever it is that you need to do, you need to do it. So in Indian occupied Kashmir, if it's forming small communities, small groups, keep talking, building, finding ways to help one another, support one another, and keep sharing. In Pakistan, Kashmir, in AJK, it's about getting the message out to the international community for me. Having more people hearing. So join the solidarity events. We're doing the international signature campaign for the release of Yassin Malik and all political prisoners. I would love people in AJK to get down on the streets with the petition, gather as many signatures as they can, upload it, share it online, so that they're doing the groundwork in AJK, which they can. They can't do that in IOK. If they're caught with a petition signature, they'd probably be killed. So, it's about raising the awareness on the outside, but whatever they need to do within their country, obviously, to do that, the same as, so it's like the independent fight in Scotland, people having their marches going forward, and here's what we're doing. We wouldn't know how to do that here. I couldn't expect anybody outside of Scotland to tell me how to fight for my independence. So it's a tricky one. I'm trying to listen to them, but also, my advice, only advice I can give, is to whatever opportunities to get your voice out and to be heard. So do whatever it is you've got to do, but tell people outside what it is that can help, and embrace the idea of the unity. Try and embrace the idea of working with the people that want to go with Pakistan and love Kashmir to be with Pakistan, and embrace the people that want independence, because we're all human beings. We all want the solution. And the first thing we want most of all is that demilitarization. And if we can work together, and embrace one another above the divides, we will just be stronger, because this division doesn't help and isn't helping. I mean, it's impacted on my work for sharing things for different reasons. And I know it's hard. Because obviously there's some people on my journey that I've met that I feel haven't helped and wouldn't necessarily want to work with. And so it's sometimes asking people to work with others that they don't think are helping. But it's unity and raising voice as much as possible, and holding at the center of it, remembering this is about people, their life, suffering, and the brutalities. Yeah, and obviously, I just think it's such a simple solution: self-determination, a vote for everybody, and determine it all out, and we'd have peace.
Did you try to learn any Urdu or Kashmiri when you were there?
Anybody that knows me when I was there and listening will be laughing at you now. I tried. I'm not very good at languages. I maybe learned about 5 words. I don't even know if I can remember them now. So it was always like Sukriya, so thank you. I was told to use that instead of, and then Salam Alaikum, Walaikum Salam. I can't even remember any others. I think a grand total of 5.
Okay.
I do keep thinking I should learn it, because there's so many snippets, information that I'm watching. and I can't understand it. So I'll keep trying, must try harder.
Okay, so just give me 1 minute, and whatever you can understand what I will say in Urdu, and then I'll come back to you. Uh, ये हैं खातून स्कॉटलैंड से बेसिकली, और आज वीकेंड है, संडे इवनिंग है, 7 o'clock इन स्कॉटलैंड। मेरे कश्मीरी जो सुन रहे हैं, वेदर वो इंडियन ऑक्युपाइड कश्मीर में है, आज़ाद कश्मीर में है, दुनिया के किस मुल्क में भी है, फॉर गॉड से प्लीज, हमारा जो कश्मीर है, इंडियन ऑक्युपाइड कश्मीर, जो बिल्कुल जो है ना, एक आप लेटर एंड स्पिरिट में अगर आप देखें तो वो इस वक्त कर्फ्यू ज़दा है, खवातीन के साथ ज्यादती हो रही है, रेप हो रहे हैं, बच्चों के साथ जुल्म हो रहा है, कैदी जो सियासी लोग हैं वो जेलों में हैं, और अली गिलानी जिनकी डेथ हुई उनकी डेड बॉडी के साथ क्या किया गया। तो ये है सिचुएशन। तो अगर एक खातून जिसका कश्मीर से ताल्लुक नहीं है, लेकिन ह्यूमन राइट एक्टिविस्ट होने की हैसियत से वो आवाज उठा रही है, तो ये हमारे ऊपर, हमारी धरती का कर्ज है, हमारे ऊपर हमारी धरती का ये फर्ज है कि हम अपने उस वतन के लिए, और इस खातून की भी यही रिक्वेस्ट है कि आप सारे कश्मीरी सबसे पहले इकट्ठे हो गए, इस बात को कतई नजर कि आपका ताल्लुक किस जमात से है, किस इलाके से है, किस कबीले से है, किस मुल्क में रह रहे हैं, जब तक आप इकट्ठे होकर कश्मीर के लिए आवाज नहीं उठाएंगे, इस जैसी खातून के साथ आप हेल्प करके और लोगों को इकट्ठा नहीं करेंगे, तो हमारा ये जो सफरिंग है ये अनलिमिटेड, पिछले 70 साल हो गए, अगले 70 साल यही रहेगा। तो प्लीज जहां जहां पे भी आप अपने मेंबर पार्लियामेंट है उनको लेटर लिख सकते हैं। 5 तारीख है हर माह की, जिसमें वो टी विद कश्मीर, एक जो कैंपेन है लेट कश्मीर डिसाइड उन्होंने शुरू की हुई है, उसमें आप 2 बंदे हैं, 4 बंदे हैं, कप उठा के चाय पी के उसको जो है ना आप इंस्टाग्राम पे, ट्विटर पे, फेसबुक पे, जहां पे भी आप शेयर कर सकते हैं शेयर करें, और अपने कश्मीर के लिए आवाज बने। बहुत शुक्रिया, थैंक यू। सॉरी, I have to say this because it's unfortunate that we as a Kashmiri also divided in one saying independent Kashmir, one saying with Pakistan, one saying with India, and this Pakistan party, that in Kashmir party. But as a Kashmiri, I think first thing we have to follow people like you, that has no bias to neither India nor Pakistan, to any other international, country or organization. Just one point agenda, let Kashmir decide and go from there.
Yeah, perfect. And humanity, and then the tea, obviously the tea idea on the 5th of each month's idea.
Yeah, can you explain about the tea idea? Yeah, why it is on the 5th of every month?
Yeah, well, it kind of goes back to when I started campaigning. I wanted to take all the people from the world to Kashmir to get the troops out. And it kind of evolved, realizing, oh, people have got their jobs and they would never come, would they? So I then wanted to have this, with group members, it evolved to a tea event in Muzaffarabad in Kashmir. And we wanted to take one member of every country in the world to Muzaffarabad and have like a Kashmiri cultural event, but also, the voices, the politicians, and bring everybody there. And that's when I first went out to Islamabad, and I met with officials and people for that to happen. Sadly, COVID came and we weren't able to do it on ground. So we then did it online, and we had many different people there from all different ideologies. We recognized that it was a challenge, but it's because we were trying to meet on the human level. So then obviously we've revived it again. It was Mary Scully that had come up with the Red for Kashmir idea. She felt people were losing heart. There was a lot of people, not campaigning as much, and she felt it would be a really good idea because Kashmiris had turned their profiles red at the time of the lockdown, the 5th, 2019. So, but then that threw up disagreements because some people thought the red meant something else. So lots of pro-Pakistanis went green. And rather than it, being a big global attraction, it divided things, sadly. So as a campaigner, we felt, that we couldn't then continue with the red color because it was going to cause difficulties, and we want to unite not divide. So that's when it then grew back to the tea idea. And so it's kind of built on from that. And it's obviously the 5th, because that's the day that Modi went in and, you know, revoked Article 370, 35A. So it started from right on the 5th, have a cup of tea. It doesn't have to be Kashmiri tea, it can be any tea, but based around the Kashmiri tea. And also, you know, it came from the idea that it's quite English tea as well. And they're like somber affairs. You would gather around tea, it makes everything feel better. There's healing properties in tea. It was a great symbol. The cup itself is quite simple. And we felt everybody can gather around tea for humanity. So ideologies don't come into it. Even people that wanted Kashmir to go with India can join us for tea if they want to see the violence resolved. It doesn't alienate anybody, and it's that perfect opportunity. So I think we had our first one was on the 5th of September, and it was great because there was one group in UK that went on the street and made it a big event, and then the rest of us were around that having our tea, and we've uploaded it. We'll make the videos from it. And then there was the October one, and then November, and each one so far has got bigger. We were worried, would it maybe fade away a little bit? Would people be bothered bringing out their teacups every 5th? But it seems to be growing, and it seems that it's something relatively, again, simple. We can all think of the oppressed and the illegally occupied at times like that, and keep talking about Kashmir was the other thing we felt, to keep it out there. So on the 5th there was it was a brilliant mix, because there was online Zoom meet with a mixture. It was PTI and Pakistan Asian women and Teesside Against Racism. There was a real mix of people that came along, from whether they were independents, pro-Pakistan, and it was all about the humanity, and it was all about the tea. And I think in the time that I have been working, you know, campaigning, it has got easier. You know, I've been accused of being everything. I've been accused of being a Pakistan agent. I've been accused of being an Indian agent. I've been accused of being an English spy as well. And whenever I spoke for one side, I was accused of like, oh, you're a nationalist, or you're a Pakistani, or you're this. And slowly I feel that people are starting to see, just because she's there and speaking with them, that doesn't mean she supports them. You know, it's encouraging their voice. So, for example, I was at a JKLF meet in Nottingham because they had a conference afterwards, Kashmir and the Way Forward. So I'm not there as a JKLF member. I'm there because the JKLF were embracing the democratic, respecting other people's decisions. True. And talking. And then yesterday, their convention in Cotley, as a campaigner, there's pictures, there's power, there's energy, there's something that people want, and that's Kashmiri, and I'm able to use that. And then again, invited to speak, and that was a great honor, because that's not me saying, yes, Kashmir should be independent, yes, I support JKLF. It's saying I support humanity, and I support democracy, and I support anybody that will raise voice for Kashmir, but also giving those suggestions that we've just mentioned for campaigning, whether it's signatures, whether it's around tea. And as far as I'm concerned, anybody that is prepared to embrace those and raise awareness, you know, they're the ones that really care about humanity. Because if independent people really believe that their independence is going to be the chosen voice, then they shouldn't be scared of raising voice to anybody, because at the end of the day, it's what the people want. And it's the same with pro-Pakistans. They should also not be scared of raising this awareness of, come on, because, you know, at the end of the day, it's whoever the people want to go with. So I tend to find now the people that avoid, let Kashmir decide, or don't try and embrace that as a route, are a bit tunnel visioned. I can understand, you know, I do understand. Some people just want to go the independence route, and that's fine. But you could still get raise awareness. You could still, because we're not against anybody. You know, we stand by those that just want to go with the pro-Pakistan route, or just want to go, that's up for them. But this way, we can at least raise awareness for the issue. And we don't know where the solution will come from. I know lots of people, they have their ideology, but they'll support lots of different options, because at the end of the day, they just want a democratic resolution?
Well, whatever they call you, but we call you an ambassador of Kashmir, and you are mm, honorary citizen of our independent Kashmir, inshallah, one day.
Oh, thank you. Amen.
Yes. Thank you very much, Claire. You spare some time from your very busy schedule, and also it's a weekend too. And nice talking to you. So let's hope that we will, this idea of humanity tea, 5th of every month. So it's in regard of 5th August 2019,
Yeah,
when
and the hashtag is solidarity for Kashmir with the letter 4. So pictures of yourselves having tea, invite some friends for tea that know nothing about Kashmir and talk about it. You know, have friends with your family, create an event, and then upload it. Solidarity for Kashmir.
Yeah, even you can, like people, they can just do it with your families or friends or wherever you go. Just, show your solidarity with the victims of Indian brutalities in Indian occupied Kashmir. And that's all what it matters, because it's a social media world. So wherever and whatever way we can spread the word that what is going on in Kashmir, that is a great cause as a human being. So thank you very much, and God bless you. And I think the bottom line is, as your organization say, let Kashmir decide, and that is the starting point, and where it leads us to end of the day, we will, as a people of this 21st century, we should accept it, and we should go with whatever the decision of Kashmiris is.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here and speak with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.